Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of CUBED, the Marvel Snap podcast. Tonight, I'm always joined by these gentlemen here. Well, I guess you're viewing it, so I guess to your left, I have Mr. Bok Choy, aka Dakota, and to your right, we have DarkHelmit, aka Don. How you guys doing tonight, guys?
Very good.
All right.
It's another beautiful night.
Yes, and with that, another beautiful patch. So we're gonna go straight into it because we got a March 12th patch today. We are kind of a day late doing this podcast, but we still will be discussing Hope Summers and Pixie from last week, and we will talk about um, our first thoughts on Mockingbird. So, starting off with the update patch, general updates, we have a graveyard now. So, when we play the game, if a card is discarded, you looked away. If you yondued and you turned away and you don't know what happened, something got discarded, destroyed, or whatever, there is a way to look at it now. Now, after updating and playing the game, I have failed to check this. So let me hear your thoughts on this first, Dakota, on how the graveyard has been.
It's awesome having that because, like, for me, I usually would like to play the game when I'm kind of cooking or doing something. Like, I like to prop it up. I got the music going on the speaker system and the sound effects. I love the sound effects and everything together. And there'll be so many times where I'm like flipping something and I'll hear Yandu that, and I'm like, wait, what the heck did I just lose right now? I was like, oh no! So it's huge to be able to look at it. I've been telling you, like, I've only had one time Yandu show up since I've been playing this, and it's really good to know, like, okay, I saw it happen, but I clicked on it. I'm like, there it is. Like, that's bad. So I'm pumped about that. That's a major plus to the game.
Okay, how about yourself, Don? Have you seen this, and how do you like it?
Um, in all honesty, I play this game blind half the time, anyways, so I'm not how sure how big of a deal this is going to be for me. It will be nice and fun once you finally get into it and start. Honestly, I've played a bunch of games so far since noon, since this has been implemented, and honestly, I haven't checked it once because I've kind of forgot the graveyard's there.
Yeah, so we're on the same boat then. So yeah, basically, I'm with Don. We play half blind in the game already, so I think it's something we're gonna get used to. It's a nice addition to the game, so it's gonna get some time to getting used to because there are deck trackers on PC. So I got used to doing that because it's already Dakota's making a face because he can't do it on PC. But yeah, PC already has this function, or it's a third party function. So it's gonna be nice when they actually install it in game. That way, you also see your full deck, right? Hopefully, they get that going. I don't know if it's in the works. I hope it is in the works. But now, one step closer to that is seeing the graveyard. So another change that they did add that I did use is the undo and turn. So as long as your opponent hasn't ended their turn, you can go back to the staging step. So there have been many games where I made a move and the opponent hasn't ended their turn yet, and I'm just like, I completely didn't read the location. I completely didn't look over my hand properly. I just played the card and was like, I think that's gonna win. And then you look at the stage and you're just like, I'm dumb, So now that they added this undo end turn, it's nice to be like, okay, I made a mistake. Let me undo end turn. Hopefully your opponent isn't as fast as you are, and then you just do that turn over, and then you can end your turn. So for me, that has helped a lot. Now, how have you been dealing with this, if at all? So let's start with John. You, Don.
Man, I'm so excited that they put this in. there are way too many games where I hit that button too quick. I'm like, oh man, I know what I'm gonna do, and you go, and then you look at your zones, and you're just like, uh-oh, I shouldn't have done that. So the ability to actually be like, oh, you know what, I can undo that real quick is such an awesome feature. I am surprised this hasn't been in the game so much sooner.
I agree. How about yourself, Dakota? How do you like it so far?
I've only done it once so far where I've undone what would have been an absolute detrimental mistake, and I'm very happy to have that in the game. I think that it's funny because I know we talked about it before, and it's like at some point it's like, well, you do that because it's good to have the punishing side of it because it's like you should pay attention. It's a strategy game. That's the whole point of it. But to have the little like grace, I like grace. I'm all about grace, baby. Thank you. That's how I look at it. I'm all for it. That makes life a heck of a lot easier on my.
It's like I say grace before I eat. So yeah, so it is really good that they've added this feature because yeah, like I said, paying attention to the location, sometimes it becomes second nature to be like, okay, I just want to go points for points, right? Because that's how you win the game, where it's just like my points are better than are higher than your points. But sometimes we just forget that location is there, and it's nice to know that they have our back. We're all kind of stupid sometimes. So we make mistakes, even gods, right? So another thing that they finally have added, I mean, you could see around us right here, boop, boop, boop. They added custom borders. Now, this is something that they have been talking about for a long time. They finally implemented it. So have you tried it at all, Dakota? And give me your feedback on it.
Yeah, so I'm obsessed with it. I think they're inked on that we're going for. They always look so well. And it's cool because, like, for instance, I have a Devil Dino. I like the one that has the Spider-Man and it's got the monkey on the back, or whatever his name. I think it's a cool variant in general. I haven't gotten that one inked just yet. I had a different one that was, and it kind of worked really smooth. Oh, I got it. Oh, cool, but I can change it around. I don't have to upgrade the thing all the way to get it to be animated now. And I made it a red border, but it's down and stuff. I'm like, oh, this is freaking awesome. So yeah, for me, I'm pumped. I went through and did that to my fridge. I have one for death. It's exciting to go through all these and make them kind of like the exact look that you wanted. And the fact that it's like, okay, cool. After 3 splits on that, you can just kind of go wild with whatever they gave you. I think that's really it's a fun way to kind of change things around. It's a bummer that it's like, okay, obviously you didn't work as hard to get all these cards. Maybe the old school way was if you wanted that inked, you have to just do all these splits to get it. Sometimes you don't get the one with the Kirby crack. But now you can just go, okay, at one point one card did get it. I'm just gonna change it up. So I mean, I'm happy. I know we talked about it before about wanting it. So the fact that we finally have it now, I mean, it's cool to look at the deck and be like, look at all these beautiful things. Like it's cool.
Well, the thing is, if the split that you got is a Kirby Crackle, the Kirby Crackle only goes to that specific variant, and the Kirby Crackle can only have the effects that you upgraded and got on it. So, say if it's like a gold, you could only Kirby Crackle that gold. You can't change the Kirby Crackle over to the ink. So it's good. You still have to have to upgrade stuff, and it makes it so the upgrading process isn't completely torn down, right? It's just a way that, say, if you want to upgrade your card more and you like the variant that you have, you could upgrade the variant and still customize the card so it's to your liking, to your border that say like Venom. I want to give an example. The Ultimate Venom looks great with the blue border, but what if you want all the effects of the glossy name and the moving background and the animations and whatnot? Now you get the best of both worlds. You have the animation. You could choose if it has an effect on the card, and then you have the border that you like. And for me, I think that Venom looks great with a blue border. So I don't know. So it's a plus to the game. It's completely aesthetic. and it's completely free, which is awesome. I mean, free in the fact where you don't have to do anything extra besides upgrading your cards. So it's something that good that they've added to the game. I think it has been asked for a while now, for almost the full time since the game came out. But how have your efforts been using this custom bordering, Don?
Honestly, it's just one of those nice little extra pieces in, right? So just being able to have that little bit of like customization, for instance, like let's say you're kind of anal attentive, right? And you want all your borders to be the same in a deck. You could do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could just have the backs, the borders, you could just make it all aesthetically pleasing. So I think that's a really good thing that we're doing, or that they added in. Ultimately, doesn't change the game a whole lot, but you know what? It's just that little bit of thing where you're like, you know what? You're listening to your community.
Yes, I agree, and it's like what style points, right? Your community is gonna praise you for doing something. Finally, I know it took a while, but at least it's something they got done, and it seems they have done it right. So I'm still waiting to see if there are any hiccups on it, but it's good to see that they're moving forward with the game. So another thing that they have added is something they called a gold pass. So for $5 for 30 days, you log in and you'll get 50 gold. So supposedly over the course of the 30 days, also you get 300 gold up front. I don't know if you're going to get 300 gold up front every 30 days, but that will be something that we'll have to keep an eye on. Now, supposedly, the overall amount that you're getting is about 1,800 gold. And 1,800 gold is about 20 something dollars, like 22, 20, 24, something like that. Now, with only having to pay $5, tell me, Don, is this something you're going to get? Is this consistently, and how do you feel about this?
It's interesting because, like, I feel like we're starting to get that kind of microtransaction thing that a lot of games do, right? Where you're just spending a little bit more money. It's like, oh, this little thing, it's just $5 here, and $10 for your pass, and oh, there's this one variant that gives you a little bit of gold. It's starting to get to the point where it's adding up really quickly. Now, what I will say is, I will do this over upgrading to the premium season pass. Absolutely, and it works at about the same cost, right? So with the upgrading, you're getting those 5 extra levels, but at the end you're actually those mystery end of the season things. You're not really getting anything good out of it. At least every day you're getting 50 gold and you're getting 300 gold, right? So to me, in lieu of doing like the premium pass, it makes sense, but I am a little concerned that we are getting into all those tiny microtransactions.
Yeah, it's gonna be funny if they like start charging like, oh, just for $2 you can upgrade. Instead of 50 credits a day, you'll get 100 credits a day. So
75.
Yeah, ratchet. And I mean, I'm a sucker for those microtransactions. Little transactions here look way better than a bigger one. But I agree. It's now you're sinking what, $15 a month. I know if you got the premium, you did sink $15 already, right? It's 15 for the 10 levels, or is it 20?
I think it's 15 for 10 levels or something like that.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, for me, I've never bought the premium because I think we play enough that even if you just buy it straight up, you're gonna end up at 50. So with all the help that they give you during the season, I feel like you're gonna reach 50 anyway. So that extra 10 levels doesn't really do anything. I think it's more for people that are casual players, don't plan on making infinite, but still want the benefit of reaching level 50 in the season pass. So Now, how do you feel about this extra microtransaction, Dakota?
Well, I bought it. Don has a good point. I think that we are getting into another little thing where it's like, okay, cool, yeah, for $2 you can do this, for $4 you can do this, and holy smokes, it's enough for you to go. That's not that bad. Like $5 is today's modern $1 or whatever. Like that's no big deal. Yeah,
Hey,
why not throw that? Throw in the bowl,
five
baby.
dollars still
And then by the time,
$5.
you get to the end of the month, you go to pay your card off. You're like $300. And I'm not speaking from experience, obviously, but yeah, it's important, I think, to remember that you don't have to spend money for this game. It could be free. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, I did buy it because it's $5 for what could be, was 20. I'm like, all right, cool. At least I'll have an income of gold for my next, couple variants that I want. That's not too bad. I think though that the game should just give you that option for free. We get 50 credits for free every day. We should get 50 gold for free every day. I don't see why we should have to pay for that. I understand why we're paying for it because they want to have money, baby. But Gambit don't want to have money now. Yeah, that's too much now. So I don't know. That's all I have to say about that now.
Yeah, I think the only reason why they don't give out gold for free willingly is because gold's used to buy variants, and variants are, cosmetics that don't make the card better. But of course, we love them, right? We love these different types of variants because it reminds us of the comic books that we read, or it's just really great artwork that we want to display our style. Right. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, a lot of people have their different styles and the different art that they like, where most of them, some of them might like the Dan Hip. Some of them might like the Venomized. Some of them like the realistic looking, right? So this game, to play the game, like you said, it's free. But of course, they make the basic art, the original art of every card, less likable than the others, right? So it's just so it's their way of getting money, like you said. And I think if they give us that free 50 gold a day, it would take away from how much they are earning. So, I mean, they have to make money some way, right? I'd rather it if they do these little microtransactions instead of overpricing the other bundles, I would take this over that. Now they might do this and that, so we'll see. But people are still buying things. Not everything, So, with that said, we will move on to the card updates, which we got a really good amount of cards that were updated, but I don't think like the what is it? The guy that talks about this on Twitter, Glenn, he or the Discord, they still haven't hit destroy, if I'm not mistaken. So I just want to go into we'll go into the first card here, and we'll start with your thoughts on this, Don. So the card is Elsa Bloodstone. So she changed from a 2/3 to a 3/3. And then her effect change, instead of just the cards that she gives +2 whatever card fills the lane here, it's each card you play to fill your side of a location gains +2 power. So wherever you fill up a lane, Elsa will grant that card +2 power. So it's going back to the old effect. So how do you think this is going to affect the gameplay now, Don?
Honestly, I like them taking this adjustment, right? We know when Elsa first came out, like, she was a powerhouse, and there was just decks that were being run over and over again with Kitty Pryde. They did nerf her down to only having that one power, which kind of slowed her down a little bit. And honestly, in my opinion, saw her drop off completely. Now increasing her cost, but also putting her back to that original kind of power up. I think this is going to be interesting to see how it plays out completely. You're not going to get to play it, what? Now if you play it on 3, you might be able to play it 3 more turns, right? So you're adding an extra 6 power in, give or take, which isn't too bad. If you meet the requirements for this card. So ultimately, time's going to tell what this is. I think it's a good adjustment, and we'll see how it goes.
Okay, I agree. Yeah, I feel like giving her that 1 cost, it does limit you when you play the card, because when she was a 2 cost and she still did the same effect, it was like play her over Angela, or and I don't know. It was pluses on pluses, right? Because at the time also Angela was gaining +2. So now that Angela's gaining +1, it is kind of a slow ramp to power. But I feel like now it actually gives some time to shine back into that gameplay style of I think bounce move, something like that. So how have you seen this card? Have you seen this card at all in your gameplay, Dakota? And how have you fared?
I haven't seen this card once since the update. I feel like this was something that people were like, "Yeah, okay, cool. What else happened?" And they just were like, "Yeah, whatever. This might be cool." I think this card got destroyed so many times. Like it got killed on arrival. After it did good for a week, they nerfed it, they nerfed it, they nerfed it, and it got where you barely see it. I think in a week, or maybe even less than, we'll probably start to see it come in after people had enough fun with thing else on the new patches. But I've yet to see this card show up at all.
Okay. Now the next card we have here is it's actually a recent card. It's Meek. So Meek, he changed from a let's see, his effect changed. So his old effect is after each turn, if you discarded 1 or more cards, gain that much power and move. Now it's when you discard a card, this gains +1 power and can move next turn. Now I think let's see. I think it only gains 1 power, or does it still gain 1 power per card discarded? Because the wording says when you when you discard a card, this gains +1 power and can move next turn. So I'm guessing it gains 1 power per card discarded, if I'm not mistaken. But go ahead and start on this card, Dakota, and what do you think about it?
I think it's interesting that you can control where you're moving it now. I mean, it can move next turn. So I'm understanding that means you can move it. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's huge. I mean, you're able to depict where you're going to be putting things. You get into stuff where you can't put cards. I can't remember the name of the locations. Like no cards can be played here or whatever. You can just go buck wild on that and then move it over. That's freaking huge. Like seriously, that's amazing. I'm all about that. I think that the archetype is super fun to play anyways. Discards gives it back into its lane because I mean it was a fun card, but then when you get Glaive and Proxima and these other ones coming out, you're kind of like, well, this guy's taking the back burner. Will it start to show up in the decks again? We'll see. I'm not entirely sure about it, but I'm for it. I think it kind of gives a versatile state, so I think that's pretty cool.
What are your thoughts on this one, Don?
I think this is going to be a really cool change. The simple fact that you have a 1 cost that, in a lot of the discard decks you run, especially the big discards or the massive discards, you don't really have a 1 cost card, right? So I think having this card and be able to move is going to be awesome. I think with you being able to Modoc your last turn, and then on turn 6, you can move Meek to wherever you want. And if you think, let's say you have 4 cards in your hand, right? And 2 or 3 of them drop out into the deck, like Wolverine and Proxima, right? So then you just threw what? 11 power. You also gain 4 power for Meek and be able to move him wherever you want, kind of making people guess. I think this is actually going to be one of those cards that when people start messing around with it, it's really going to have a lot of impact on that type of play.
I agree. Like, if the effect is how I'm thinking of it, it's going to be cool because you can now control where you feel your Proxima can go, right? Because if you have a open lane and you want Proxima to go there, you just move Meek over to open up the lane, make it the lowest costing one or the lowest one, and then automatically that your Proxima will go there. So I feel it's nice to have a little bit control with discard, but I feel like also discard is one of those, what is it, one of the most reliable decks that you can probably play, just because even before the change on America Chavez, every turn you had a card that you could play, but now discard has a one card besides what's his name, Blade. Yeah, besides Blade, that you could play and rely on it without having to replace it with something else. Because a lot of people replace the card with or Meek with something else useful because it was not as reliable. So now that discard has this, it's going to be really nice to see how discard moves on from here. All right, so the next card we have is Mantis. And so the old effect is a 2/3 on reveal. If your opponent played any cards here this turn, draw a card from their deck. Now it changed to a 2/2, so it lost 1 power. And now the on reveal effect is if your opponent played any cards here this turn, copy one of them into your hand. So how do you feel this card has changed for the better, for the worst on? Go ahead and start us off.
I'm not sure this card really changed all that much, right? Yes, you're going to get something that's played there if they play something there. I don't see in which deck I'm actually going to end up using this one way or another. I think it's an interesting change, but I don't necessarily feel that it's going to be one of those changes that makes me play this card anymore.
Okay. How about yourself, Dakota? How do you feel this card has changed? The change on this card.
I like it. I was thinking about it not too long ago on the drive actually from work. So before in the beginning stages, right, Yondu and Mantis were something that really put a damper on your game earlier on. Mantis kind of disappeared for a little bit, showed up again when Loki was here. Now with Mockingbird coming in, being able to, say you do something at this point, really know how you're lining up. You already got Quinjet, and you're throwing her out on like 5, and you're getting something pretty powerful from your opponent. You're adding more ability to Bird or chances. I mean, probably 4 because you gotta have. It's like there's more chances to build that up. That her costs go down. You're able to kind of disrupt some flow there. You're gonna discount it with Quinjet. I kind of like it more than the old way. It was a problem in the beginning because I mean, shoot, you lose your null if someone plays this down. You don't have that. You're like, crap. I don't know what thing she stole from me, and then like you see to the end, like yeah, fine. So it's like I think that it's still interesting. It's still relevant. I wouldn't be surprised if we see her with the new card being released, but at the same time, I feel like the cards will work better with her. So I don't know. I think that it's kind of something that they changed to flow better in the new meta.
Okay, yeah, I agree. This card probably has changed because of, like you were saying, the new card, which is Mockingbird. It could probably work in a really good collector deck or maybe a Loki deck, just because any card that you do copy will be discounted by Quinjet, and or it could be changed with Loki. So it'll be a nice change because you also once you what is it once you steal that card, you also get the power to collector. So that's another thing to buff the collector. Whereas I know Yondu destroys the card, so that's more good in destroy. It's not going to be good in a collector deck, but yeah. So something that I noticed they are doing is they are buffing rebuffing collector deck slash what is it? Collector deck slash Loki decks. because the next card we're going to talk about is Cable. And Cable changed from a, let's see. So Cable changed from a 3/4 to a 2/3. So he is going back, I believe. Oh no, he was a 2/2 before. Now, what are your thoughts on them changing this back to his original? His original cost, but one more power. Dakota.
I think that it makes sense if you are relevant at this point. Everything is so high in power now. Like everything it's hitting the tens of. You're getting styles where it's not just like you can't really compete. Like its ability is still working great, but you're testing like this kind of puts you up to where it's like, okay, cool. There's a 3 in this lane. Like that's gonna do some damage. I think that's at least building you up in something that can give you IO if you need to. It also helps. With collector. I think it's good synergy, and I'm for it.
Okay, how about yourself, Don? How do you feel about this card's change?
Honestly, I feel like this is a much superior card to the last one that we had. One of the things is you get the extra power, right? You're talking about the same cost, one extra power. Also, you have a chance to pull any random thing out of their deck, right? Which could be any crazy number. Like you could get a really high card, you could get a really low card. Like you could get almost a deck changing card, right? There are cards in there that are just so. Yes, it's a little bit more random, but also you're getting a card.
Mm-hmm.
Versus the Mantis, you're hoping if you pick right. So like I said, as far as it goes, I much prefer this card. I think it's a good change, and I'm definitely messing around with it in a Loki deck.
Yeah, so I agree. It's a card that it's kind of like preferring Agent 13 over Maria Hill, because Maria Hill gives you a guaranteed 2 cost, right? And then where Agent 13 gives you a random card, which I would take that random card chance any day, just because having that random card, it doesn't limit you to what 2 cost cards there might be. I mean, there's a lot of good 2 cost cards, but if it's not a 2 cost that you need to play next turn, then you already know, okay, well, this is going to be useless, but I just need it to get the collector buff or to get another card so that I could play Loki on turn 4. But now that you have when people choose, what is it, Agent 13, you can be like, oh man, I could get any 6, 5, 4 costs, which 4, 5, 6 costs are probably some of the best cards to get, because then you're like, I don't know, do you run Zabu in Loki?
I don't.
You don't? Okay. How do you run Zabu in Loki, Dakota?
I was the deck that I was messing around with Zabu in it.
Okay.
I had a lot of discount type of stuff with that and Quinjet and on things. I was just trying to get Loki out a little earlier because Snowguard was pumping power, Agent was pumping, not power, but pumping cards. It was just like, boom, we're getting all this in here. I was trying to get it as quick as possible because the deck it's not as strong as what's out there right now. Everybody's got so much power. I was getting that discount on these big cards. Yeah, it was beautiful.
Okay. Yeah, so getting that that random chance where you have the highest highs instead of the lowest of lows. You can have lowest of lows, highest of highs, but it's nice to know that there's big reward for a bigger chance. Whereas if you play Mantis, very, very low chance that you could end up getting a stone from a Thanos deck and be like, I didn't need that.
Yeah, that's true.
And speaking of stones, we're gonna move on to the time stone, where it was changed, and the time stone now says, oh shoot, let me change. Okay, so instead of on reveal, you get +1 energy, and you draw a card. You now get draw a card and give it -1 cost. Now, as a Thanos player, I want to say that this sucks. Because I think I have played Thanos probably for the last 3 seasons, and it's not the strongest deck, and it's not the most consistent deck, but it's damn fun. And I feel like if you're adding 6 cards, I feel like they nerfed it enough to be like every card doesn't draw, every stone doesn't draw. And if you don't get your stones within the first couple of turns, I feel like you're not, what is it? You're drawing worse than your opponent. So when they make this, it's nice that it still draws. I appreciate that. Now, we don't know what it gives the -1 cost to. What I liked about it before is you just get that 1+ energy the next turn, like a Psylocke, right? But now, having it very randomized on what gets the -1 cost, it's kind of hard to plan your strategy. Which Thanos does have a wide variety of strategy that you can do, but I just feel like it kind of slowed this deck down, especially when the downside is already having 6 more cards than your opponent. So, how do you feel about this change, Don?
No, I definitely agree. Like, this is a huge kind of hit to this card. A lot of the times, like, having that extra energy to be able to be like, hey, you know what? Let me play whatever I can, was great. This change it just adds more randomness to this deck, which, it doesn't need more randomness. This deck is already one of those ones where you could dead draw into the beginning of the game, where you get all 4 or 5 class cards, and you're like, I can't do a darn thing the rest of the way. So this is definitely a big nerf, and I will still be playing some Thanos, but this is gonna hurt.
How do you feel about this change for yourself, Dakota?
I'm on the same page with you guys. It's frustrating. I was getting up there. I'm moving down moving up the ladder. Everything's going smooth. This hurt so much, man, because it's like you just stop your momentum. The whole idea of having to get up these big cost cards, it's painful because it's not working like you would want it to. More than not, when I throw this card down, this next card I draw is a freaking stone. I'm like, oh great, it's a 0 cost. It's delicious. It's not what you're looking for. It feels like it just feels like the momentum on this thing. You just hit a wall, and it's actually like kept me from rolling with that ever since. No joke. Like the rest of the day, I was like, well, I got to figure something else out because I'm not a fan of how this is running, and I don't want to get Wave in there. I don't want to like Hope Summers is a cool idea, but it feels slow. It's slow. By the time you get things moving on that, you're like, it's just not what it needs to be. I'm bummed out by that. That hurt.
Yeah, so I will say that I get the nerf just because Thanos has been a good deck. Like I said, he hasn't been like tier 1, I don't believe, for a while. But I feel like, say, if this does hit a stone and you have Hope in your hand, next turn you could play Hope and the stone, which, automatically you get that 1, and it helps. So it turns Hope and a stone into the green stone, basically. Basically the time stone was supposed to help you get 5 energy on turn 4. Whereas if you use the time stone now and hit another stone, you have Hope, you play Hope and the stone, it does still give you 5 energy next turn. I mean, it would be nice if, there was another card besides Psylocke. Do you guys know of another card that gives energy? That's
I mean, there's
Electro.
there's Electro. You got Corvus Slave.
besides a 3 cost, so it has to be 2 or 1. There's none, right? If I'm not mistaken.
A 2 or 1.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, because the point is to try and get, well, I guess on turn 3 you could use Electro or what is his name? Corvus Glaive or Wave to get a 5 cost card down, but it feels more risky that way, right? So with Electro, you can only play on one turn. With Wave, you give the opponent a chance, and then with what is it, Corvus, you lose 2 random cards. So it is kind of tough for Thanos players to be a bit slower than their opponent now instead of keeping up with their opponent. So it's going to be weird to see over the next few weeks, especially with the changes to Elsa. I feel like Kitty Pryde decks might be making a resurgence. That's just my thought on that. So the next card is M'Baku. He changed his effect, so he kept the same power, kept the same cost, but it changed from if this is in your deck at the end of the game, it jumps to a location. Now it changed to at the end of the game, this jumps from your deck to your lowest power location that isn't full. So it takes it's kind of like Proxima Midnight. So it jumps to the lowest power location that isn't full. So if the lowest location is full, it'll find the next one. It won't just like be discarded, or it won't just not happen. So I feel I'll speak on this real quick because I feel like the change that should have been is I like this, but it should jump out from wherever it's at. I feel like it's not such a good card that, I mean, it's a good card, but it's not that it's not that powerful that it should affect the game a lot now, because it's going to hit your lowest location, right? So 2 powered at the lowest location, you're kind of like, okay, what's going to happen? You're kind of taking a dice roll on that one. So how do you feel about this change, Dakota?
Well, I really never played this card to begin with. I think that it used a little more reworking. Being that he's from the ice, he's up in the ice mountains. I always feel like it'd be kind of cool to try to change it around. Black Panther, the Wakandans, they all have something with buffs. I think it'd be cool since he's from ice and Iceman's the way he is. If he hops out, he's going to do a negative power across on somebody. I think that'd be pretty cool to just like a whoop, -1, -2 or something like that. Make him into a 4 because I don't want to hop out. Who's playing him? Nobody. And I think he needs to. And this was a step in a direction. It wasn't right, but they're moving somewhere, I guess.
All right. So what are your thoughts on this, Don?
I feel like this was a half change, right? Like, again, you're not going to really trade anything out for this card. But I do think that either they need to change it to your deck and your hand, or they need to give him a power buff, right? So even if you gave him a 1/3, you might actually start looking at playing him, let's say, if you were running one of the new Zoo decks, right? If you knew you were going to get a 1/3 out that gets buffed by, all the stuff you do, I could see that being more useful. But as of right now, I think this is one of those things where they kind of took a baby step that isn't going to increase the playability of this card.
Okay, that's well put. Yeah, baby step towards something that maybe they have plans for in the future. I hope they do, because it's going to be nice for M'Baku to actually get some playtime, because I feel like the only time you do play this card is for the memes. So playing like a Lockjaw deck and always tossing him in Lockjaw, but he's a 1 cost. So typically you want to play like a Wasp into Lockjaw. That way you don't have the negative effects of having to use energy. So I feel like, like Don said, baby steps in some direction we don't know yet. So it's only time will tell. So the next card we have is Yondu, which he kept the same energy and same power, but his effect change on reveal, destroy the lowest cost card in your opponent's deck. So it used to destroy the top card of your opponent's deck. Now it destroys the lowest cost card. So how do you feel about this change, Don?
This is definitely a nerf on the card. I think you're going to see it played a lot less because you don't get that random, hey, I'm going to destroy a card that could be good or bad. I do think, though, now that you play it early, you can mess people up in the early game as far as, like, if you destroy the smallest thing in their deck, and that may have been the next card they were going to pull on, let's say, turn 2, right? And they just have, like, 3s or 4s in their hand, it does push them back a turn. But I don't see this card, like many of these cards, like getting. Actually, this card will probably get played a lot less because of this change.
Okay. How do you feel? How do you feel about destroy in general with using this card, Dakota?
It really hasn't been in the cards I've been playing destroy in general, just because everything that we're kind of running now doesn't. You don't really need to worry about disrupt. You're focused on trying to get yourself moving with Deadpool and building up your lanes with that, trying to venom it so that you can have like a free death and a free what you know what I'm saying. It's cool and all. It's a bummer that they did what they did. I always enjoyed, playing him to see, oh cool, I destroyed their Magneto. It's like that's all to my normal have. That's more what I'm talking about. Yeah, I think that it definitely took a hit with this one. It's going to be interesting. What Don said is a good point. I didn't think of it like that. Like, you are pushing people back. This is even kind of another attack to Thanos, man. Like, shoot, there goes my stones. There goes Psylocke. How dare you? Depending on what's in your hand there. So, yeah, I think that it's interesting. It's definitely a good disrupt. It's not going to be nearly as potent as it was, but it's interesting.
Yeah, so I agree. I do take back what I said on the nerf to destroy, but I feel like most destroy decks don't run Yondu. Now, when you do play Yondu in your deck, you typically play null because you want to roll high, hit something high, so that power goes to null, right? But now since it's the lowest cost card, it's just another reason not to play this card in destroy. So I feel like they nerfed the wrong card in Destroy. it doesn't really have an effect on it because people weren't running it. But, I mean, maybe it's another thing like Don said. It's another baby step towards something they're going to do in the future.
Okay, so in the meantime, I actually had a thought real quick about Yondu. It's actually kind of almost an anti-pixie card. Right.
Whoa,
so
yeah.
Think about this, right? If you play a pixie, right, and you throw Yondu, you might hit their big card.
Oh, that's so good. So you can choose when to play it.
So now you might have to actually strategize that a little bit. But it just kind of clicked in my head. You see a pixie card? Now, that's one card to play, hoping they play a pixie.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it does really screw up that deck in some ways.
It does. And I feel like pixie isn't so much of a problem because, like, it depends on what they draw, right? Like, there hasn't been a consistent pixie. I have been screwed over by a pixie deck, but I feel like it's so random that it's kind of like it's actually worse than negative. I don't know if that's it's a hot topic, but it's kind of worse than negative because at least negative which cards are going to be inverted, whereas Pixie doesn't give you any clue to what she's changing and if it's going to be good or bad for you and what you're going to draw, right? So what you draw is ultimately so very the variety of, what you draw can be bad, bad, bad instead of good, bad, So it's kind of weird. So
very true.
Yeah. I feel like it will be a nice counter to those pixie decks because you'd be like, oh man, they might get like a lot of the pixie decks were running in high Evo. So like I know one deck I ran, I got like a 1-cost Hulk. So if they do what is it Yondu it'd be like, oh man, they Yondu'd my good card, whereas now it's bad card to good card ratio has just like tipped, right? So that's good, and that's another thing like that. Pixie. We'll talk more about Pixie, but she's very very dynamic. Is I think that's what I want to call it because you just don't know where your game's headed. It's a very fun card though.
Yes, very.
All right, so I'll go ahead and read while Dakota starts to pick up on that. Um, the last card we have is the change to Leech. Now, this is like probably one of the number one villains of Marvel Snap. Ever since we started the game, we've heard, oh, Leech is so good, and he was running in a Lockjaw deck, and they changed him, and then they changed him again, and now I think this is what I think our fourth change to him ever since we started playing, if I'm not mistaken. So his effect, his old effect, or his new effect, he changed to an on reveal. He kept the same power, kept the same cost. Now his on reveal effect is remove the text from each card with an on reveal ability in your opponent's hand. So how do you feel about this change to him, Don?
Obviously, this is a big nerf, right? The whole point of playing the card was to disable the text for kind of all the cards. Um, what they really should do, if they're going to play this card this way, they need to maybe bring it to a 4 cost. That way, it works more like a Shang-Chi-ish card.
Yeah,
Because now you're specifically going after on reveal.
yeah,
Which is kind of crazy because there's a bunch of anti on reveal cards out there.
yeah,
So this is just another one to throw into that deck.
yeah.
But ultimately, don't get me wrong, I am happy to see less Leech. The end of last season was like I was running out of blood because I was getting leeched so much. Like it was just a problem. So I am happy to see the change, so I don't see him as much.
Yeah.
But this is definitely a big nerf.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. Like, you have Cosmo out there already, right? So, I think Leech is probably one of the best cards to maybe target ongoing. Whereas you already have that Cosmo, why not have something that targets ongoing? Because, ongoing is probably the most. Let's see. Let's see. Well, I'm trying to think of the word. It's like it could be used anywhere, right? Ongoing is very you could plug it and play in any deck, and I feel like it's tough to stop. So if it's say like a echo, it's kind of hard to play that echo when you don't know where it's gonna be. And say if it's what is it, Enchantress? Enchantress is, I don't know. It is an on reveal, but say if they have a Cosmo of their own on there already, you can't do anything about it. So it's nice if there would be like an effect on Leech to take away ongoing instead of on reveal, because I feel like the on reveal, like you said, already has counters to it. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Now let's kind of like check on Dakota and see how he's doing.
I'm trying to get this. Can you hear? I
Oh
don't
yeah.
know what's going on, man. It's not connected to the mic, so I guess I just gotta talk louder into uh into this stupid computer. I don't know what's going on, man.
No, you're all good. So, close us out. Close us out on this. The end of the update list. How do you feel about Leech's change?
I'm not the biggest fan of it. I was enjoying Leech does. He was very handy against the meta, but this last week in general, Leech was awesome at stopping Hella and everything else. Now, granted, so it's supposed to work only on the on reveals, right? That's
Yes.
the main thing it changed to. So it's cool. Um, I like being able to stop ongoing too. I wish that they just kept it. I get it. He was a big stopper for what was going on. I liked it the other way. I have to roll with it, but I like the other way more.
Yeah, and I feel also the nerf to this card doesn't mirror the power that it has anymore, right? Like if it's only taking out on reveals, 3 is weak. It should be like a 5.5 or 5.6. I don't know, or maybe higher than that, you know. But I just feel like targeting on reveals. There's so many good on reveal cards that if you take away their abilities, they still have good power. Like let's take Arrow. You know, if it's a 5.9. If you take away her ability, it's cool. I don't know. I can't think of anything else right now. But on reveal effects, there's so many good on reveal effects and cards that if you take it, still playable. You know, you play it for the power. Now, with that being said, we can go on to the last week's cards. So last week's cards, because we got 2. I'm all mixed up on my days because we kind of skipped yesterday. But let's start with the card, what is it? The season pass card, Hope Summers. So how has your gameplay have been with this card, and how do you feel about it? Let's start with you, Dakota.
Okay, so she was insane with high evo. It was wild, man. Your sunspot was getting so much power towards the end of your turns. Like you're getting everything out. You didn't even need magic. Like the crap that you were pulling with this card was just unreal. I had a blast just running high evo with Hope Summers. Absolutely amazing, super fun.
All right. How has your experience been, Don?
This card, I think we should enjoy before it gets nerfed, because the truth of the matter is this is one of the best new tech cards out there, right? It fits into most decks. I mean, what deck do you have that you don't want more energy with, right? Basically, every deck this benefits. In the deck that I was running for most of the time, which was a Thanos deck, this was the perfect replacement for like Wave, right? You still get the energy to be able to play on top of it, but you don't have the counter of allowing them to play another card too, a high power card. So like this card honestly fits into so many decks. I think we are going to see it get nerfed like crazy come next month.
I agree. I feel like this card does a lot of decks good. You know, and it could be used in a variety of decks. It's such a really good card to plug and play with it. The only thing I had a problem with it is because I did play it in Thanos as well, and I feel like this card didn't really work unless you either Greenstone, Time Stone, or Psylocke into it. Because then if you didn't, you play her on turn 3. On turn 4, you're either playing like a couple stones in her, but that takes the place of the placeholder of like something else, right? So it just kind of felt kind of clunky at times, but I feel like when it works, you know? So I guess that's the only downside of the card in a Thanos deck is how many cards you get, right? Because not like I said earlier, is Thanos has so many cards. If you don't draw stones and you're drawing this, how can you use Hope to in a Thanos deck, and it's not really going to be useful if you're not drawing stones? So I guess that's also the problem with Thanos deck is if you don't draw stones, you're kind of SOL. And you got to play with high cards only and hope your opponent has nothing they could do against high cards. Because if they have either Shang-Chi or if they have an Alioth in weight, they already built up more power than you and built up priority to kind of leave you behind if you don't have your stones. So, fair. Yeah. So, and any last words on Hope? Actually, I do have a question. If you do think it's going to get nerfed, I feel it's going to get nerfed too, what do you think they're gonna nerf? Like power, cost, or effect? I mean, they can't really nerf her effect because she only gives one energy, or maybe it's a once per turn. They give her
Yeah.
you give one energy. So, what are some ways you guys think it could be nerfed? Let's start with you, Don.
The main way this is going to be nerfed, I think we're going to see it drop to like a 3-2 power. I think that is really the biggest place they're going to be. I think the 3 cost, as far as like 3 energy works, because like if you're not cheating it out, you're only getting to play 3 cards into it, and that fills up a lane, right? So it makes sense that that's it. I think power is the most important place that this is going to be dropped down. And I could see a 3-2-ish range just to really kind of make it putative to continue to keep it around.
Okay. How about yourself, Dakota? How do you feel like this might be nerfed?
Yeah, I think Don hit it on the head. We know it's not going to be a 3-1 because then Ravonna can do some magic on it, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's going to be only once per turn is it going to give that little blessing. Very similar to Lockjaw treatment. It's too good for it to keep it as it is because if you're throwing out your 0 cost and all this other stuff and you're able to move things around, like there's so many things you can do with this card as is that I could totally see it being a 3-2 once every turn.
Yeah. So yeah, that's that. I think that's one of 2 ways that they could do it is make it a 3-2. I think they're gonna, like you guys said, they can't make it a 3-1 because Ravonna can do something about it. They can't make her a 3-0 because negative. If you play her in Mr. Negative, it's like it's over on that end. And I feel like 3-3 is not good enough. I feel like they would have to bring her down to 3-2. If it's a 3-3, I think they're going to additionally do only once per turn you gain an energy, right? Because if they do a 3-2 and then keep the same effect, I feel like that's kind of, I don't know, it could still work. It could still work, but I feel like keeping a bit of power on her and then giving her the once per turn is kind of enough because it's kind of like Corvus Glaive, right? Or Electro. Like you play them on 3, the next turn you get 1 energy. There's no way you can increase that. It's just 1 energy every turn. So I feel like those are the best 2 ways to change it. Now with Hope Summers, they also release Pixie, which is the spotlight card of the week for last week. So I just want to know, have you guys tried this card at all? Let's start with you, Dakota.
No, I didn't even do anything with this card yet. I've been fighting so hard on the ladder. This wasn't one that I messed with. It didn't have as juicy of a payout than Hope Summers did, so I kind of steered clear from it. And I figured, hey, if I can make it into Infinite this week, then I'll finally mess with that card. But here I am still fighting for my life. So I could conquest it, but yeah, I'm getting people who are fighting me with this card, and the bishop set up with Hit Monkey and all this stuff. Like it's an interesting deck that they're building on this one. It has a similar setup with King Pride. It's cool. I really haven't touched it yet because I'm just trying to fight for my life right now.
All right. Have you played with this card at all, Don?
I've messed around a little bit with it. I think you hit it on the head, what you said earlier. Like, the randomness of this card really kind of makes it a worse version of Mr. Negative. I'm guessing at some point they're going to make an adjustment to be more targeted. But it really is so random that you don't... The consistency of playing it like on the ladder or any deck really is a huge challenge.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like with this card, the card that you would have to hit properly and draw the next turn would probably be Adam Warlock. So I feel like if Adam Warlock was hit with like a 1 cost, a 0 cost, and you draw it the next turn, you could benefit from this card because then you could see all the cards that you ended up changing and play your hand out there. But when you don't have ability to draw, I feel like the variance in, like I was saying earlier, you could get a bad draw, bad draw, bad draw. You might not even get a good draw for the game. So it's just like, well, that this game's done. So when you play this card, it's just like it's very risky. And I feel like when playing this card on the ladder is something just like you need to be infinite already because it has to be for fun. Because there's no strategy in this card. I mean, I guess there is, and just depending on what you draw. But then it's very limited because if I'm not mistaken, sixes can still change with sixes. So sometimes things might not change. Mm-hmm. So it's just like at that point, you're just like, why did I play this card? So I think it's a very fun card. If it does get reworked, I hope it is more controlled. And I hope, or maybe it's like somebody had an idea of another card, but I feel like if it was brought to the game, it would probably be like changed with this card. It's like shuffle or order your deck from highest cost to lowest cost. So it's kind of funny if you did that, because then you could control, what you can draw next, right? Like if you don't play any 6, 5, or 4s, then you could be like, okay, well, my 3 costs are going to be first, and I know towards the end of the game I'm going to be drawing low cards. I could just boom, 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 right? So I don't know. It's maybe something that they could start looking at, because I don't know if they meant for this card to be competitive, or just, hey, we brought you guys a new card to play with. Yeah, besides
here you go.
Yeah, right. It's just like Hope Summers is really good. Now here's Pixie. All right, so those were last week's cards. Now this week's cards, I want to get your guys' impression on your first games with Mockingbird. So go ahead and Dakota, and take it away on how you felt Mockingbird did, and what you used her in, and how you feel it's going to be for Snap in the long run.
I think that Mockingbird was an interesting card to bring out after the patch of the Time Stone. And the reason for that is because Thanos and her runs pretty smooth together. If you get all your stones out, even if you get 5 stones out, I mean, you're going to be able to put a 0 out there for turn 6. And if you're able to put all of them out, and then you hit her at the end there, then you got Thanos at 20 and her at 9. It's a lot of power to contest with. And the thing is, you're wanting to put out all your stones regardless. So to have another card that benefits from it, plus you got her, you got Cold Obsidian, you got Thanos. Like, there's some lanes that's hard to contest with, and I think that this card runs pretty smooth with Thanos at the moment, especially after the nerf. I'm during the process of trying to fix up a Loki deck. It's been fun, but it's getting hard using that right now for me in the meta. I'm just not enjoying it as much. And Conquest, it works good. The ladder is a little sketchy, and I'm just scared. Yeah, I think that this card's actually pretty dope. It has potential with a few different moves. If you're going to be throwing stuff, like if you're doing collector style stuff, she's got a lot of power you can start throwing out. So I think that once things get tuned up, this card's going to be something to contest with, and it just slots so well in with collector, especially now. I mean, dude, they touched up Cable, they touched up Mantis. Like, yeah, they got a lot of competitors here. I think it's pretty awesome.
Okay, how do you feel about this card in the next coming days, Don?
I really like the card. So like Dakota said, I've been actually messing around with a collector Loki deck, where I'm using a lot of these low-cost cards with a Quinjet, right?
Yes.
I don't know why that was escaping me. So I'm using Quinjet with a lot of the lower cost. So you have Maria Hill, or you have Mirage, right? Where you're getting these low-cost cards out, so you get more stuff on the field. So not only am I having stuff on the field, but I'm also having more in my hand. So when I go to Loki, I get a lot of variety of the cards that they have in their deck. I also have a chance to play Mockingbird maybe a little earlier, a little bit later. Gives just another play line in that whole Loki deck.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, so I feel like like I said earlier, I play a lot of Thanos, and it's one of the decks that I am trying to upgrade to looking the nicest on my end. So I automatically slotted her into the Thanos deck because I know before she came out, we were talking about it, and if she was going to be affected by the stones, or because we were talking about how Quinjet affected the stones, but now Quinjet's only a minimum of one. So now that we know that the stones do affect her, it's nice to know that you have another card that you could play just by playing regular Thanos, right? Because in no way do you have to not play the stones in Thanos. So it's nice to know that, it benefits you to play every stone, or at least 5, or, even playing, 2? It makes her a 3/9. Probably the best, the best 3-cost card, if that's the case. So it's nice that Thanos gets another thing, but the only difficult thing now is like what I had earlier is like, what do I take out? Because Thanos has so many good support cards, but now his stones, like I said, it does kind of make him slower in a way. So it's nice that this kind of helps contest that slowness. But on top of that, you still have to draw those stones. So I don't know. It is weird because I know you guys said Loki deck, and she gets the minus cost after you play the card that was not originally from your deck. So it's kind of tough because you kind of have to double dip, where like not only do you have to generate new cards, but you also have to play them. So that sucks, but at least you do, like you said, you have Quinjet to make them cheaper. What's cool is it also works with locations. So if the location gives you like that -2 ninja, that's a -1 cost. If they give you Central Park, you get the 3 the 3 squirrels. So that's -3 costs right there. So it's nice that it works with locations as well, especially with those terrible locations where it just takes spots from you, right? Especially in a Thanos deck where every spot is sacred. That when you get squirrels or that -2 ninja, you're just like, well, I lost this game. But it is a nice card to be able to slot into very few decks. It can slot into like the 2 that we mentioned, but I can't really think of anything else that on the top of my head. Can you guys think of anything else?
Moon Girl.
Okay.
Moon Girl and Devil Dino.
Okay, that's another good one. So yeah, it does have a very niche deck that you could run with it. But it's probably one of the better cards to be released this month so far. I mean, I know we have Cannonball and Rhodey, War Machine. So we'll see how those cards play out. But hopefully, I'm thinking this one takes the cake. We'll talk about more at the end of the month. So any last words that you guys have to say for either one of us or the audience?
I apologize for my terrible audio. This is very unprofessional. It won't happen again. I am a sound man. This is just I'm so mad. I'm sorry. I love you.
It's totally fine. I hope your words do come across, because I understand because we know you. So we kind of put, you could like say every other word and I could put, your thoughts together because we've worked with each other so long. And so it hopefully, the same thing comes across with our audience. So hopefully, yeah, next time it'll be better, but it did fine for today. Any last words for you, Don?
I am also a man who makes sound, so I just want to say, thank you, everyone. This is really fun just talking to these two guys. I mean, the best part is this is actually basically what we do for part of the day at work, and then to be able to do that and then come back
Lunchtime.
to chat. Yeah,
So,
definitely.
hey, that's part of work.
No. We can work and talk at the same time. That's possible.
Yeah, multitasking.
What I'm saying is it's amazing to be able to sit and kind of talk about so many of these things during the day with these guys, and then we come back onto this podcast and have these actually new thoughts that we hadn't had before. It's kind of really interesting, and I think we're spending a little bit too much time thinking about Marvel Snap, or not enough. It's one or the other. So, but thank you again for just hanging out with us.
Yeah. All right. So we appreciate you guys, and we hope to see you guys next week on episode 8. Have a good night.